This is Dead Air, and a true Reddit story from someone who believes they've been haunted for over a decade. Listen with the lights off. I believe that I am personally haunted and have been for the last 14 years of my life, or else I am the unluckiest person when it comes to finding houses. All I know is that I have been witnessing strange occurrences since I was 10 years old. This one particular story brings tears to my eyes every time I think about it. My mother, stepfather, and I had just relocated from Florida to Woodstock, Georgia. The entire development is to be an old plantation and maintained by well over 100 people. It is common knowledge that in the 1700s, someone hung themselves on a bridge that was on the property. But other than that incident, it is unknown to me whether or not anyone was mistreated, murdered, or passed away of natural causes. My logical side tells me it's more than likely, but there's no evidence that I was able to turn up either way. However, the house we moved into definitely had some very odd occurrences. The original house on our property was an old Victorian, which was torn down and reconstructed in 1930. After that, the land changed hands and all the houses were demolished and redone in a cookie-cutter style. Flash forward after 40 years of remodeling, and we arrived from Florida, ready to start our lives in a new state. The house has 2 floors and a basement and adjoining loft connected to the attic. The basement was not finished and only contained the concrete floors, wood and fiberglass insulation. The first floor was where the master bedroom was, as well as the kitchen, dining room, living room, and access to our back patio. The top floor was where I lived. There were 2 vacant rooms with a full set of furniture for when my stepsisters came up to visit their father. Things went well for the first few weeks. Everything seemed normal with the house. After our first or second month in that house, things got weird. I began to wake up at 3 a.m. or so almost every morning to what sounded like tree branches scraping on the side of the house just outside my room. There were no trees, not for another 3 or 4 houses down. It was a bare lot, and the only thing that could suggest foliage was the bushes outside, but that does not explain the sound outside of the second floor. Normally, I'd wake up and look around and then go back to sleep, but this time I got up from my bed to the normal scratching and decided that I was finally going to go find out what was causing it. My plan was to go outside to find out what the scratching was, but when I got out of bed, I became paralyzed in fear. My closet doors were wide open, but more eerily, the storage room door within my closet was also open. These were 100% closed when I went to bed, as I was completely terrified of the shadows the clothes made. I was always scared of that storage space because it was unknown to me, and as a kid, my imagination ran wild. I quickly rushed and closed both the doors and stood facing the closet. Everything was completely silent, and the scratching had stopped almost instantly. I was waiting for something or anything to happen, but nothing did. I slowly crept backwards towards my bed, which was parallel to my closet doors, and sat down facing the closet for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. I sat there watching the closet, planning my escape route if something came out of the closet. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to go to where I knew it was safe. My mom's room. I slowly got up from the bed and started walking to my door when there was a loud thud behind me. It was as if something that had been stuck had been pushed open with a considerable amount of force. I didn't want to turn around. I couldn't turn around. I knew what would happen if I did. The room fell silent. The only noise you could hear was my loud breathing. Then something began pushing on the inside of the closet door, and it began to creak. I ran out in the hallway and made an immediate left towards the stairs. Halfway down the stairs, it got cold. I don't know why, but I stopped on the landing staircase and faced towards the upstairs hallway. There was someone there. A man was standing motionless in the hallway, peering at me, halfway exposed by the wall. I couldn't see his legs, his clothes, his hair, but I did see his face. His face was cold, white, and almost glossy. It didn't appear to be an apparition, so I thought I was going to be kidnapped. I finally mustered a scream, and I couldn't stop. I just kept screaming, and he kept staring. I saw him up until the lights flicked on, and he was gone almost instantly. It's important to mention that there was nothing in that hallway. This couldn't be a shadow. My mother grabbed me by the arm and asked me if I had a bad dream. I told her what happened, and my stepfather went upstairs with his .45 to make sure there wasn't someone in any of the rooms upstairs. He checked the entire house and found nothing. 2 nights later, I woke up during the same time frame. Only this time, there was someone at the foot of my bed staring at me. It wasn't the man from the night before. It was a little girl, no older than 10. She sat there quietly staring at me. I tried to scream, but I was petrified. She was wearing what looked like an old white or yellowish flannel gown. I hid under the covers. There was nothing else I could do. That's when I heard the thud again. I pulled the covers down and saw my closet and storage doors both wide open. The girl was now standing in the closet, and her mouth looked to have stitching that had sewn her mouth shut. But her eyes were wide open, just staring. I pulled the covers back over my head and started repeating, "You're not real," like my mother told me to do. There was a voice that said, "Shh." I mustered every bit of courage and strength to get up and run for Mom's room. I made it down to the last few stairs and screamed for my mother. There's a noise in the kitchen and the light is on, so I quickly run to the kitchen to see my stepdad or my mother. It was empty. There was nothing there, and the only light that was on was a lamp that was on the side table in the living room. That's when I saw him. The man was standing in the pitch-black dining room just staring at me again. I belted out a loud, high-pitched scream, one that would embarrass any man. The man tilted his head just slightly, and the lights came on and he was gone. This time, my mother was speechless. She had seen him too. No legs, silhouette, white, ghostly face. These incidents have followed me to every house and apartment I have lived in since, with no rhyme, reason, or pattern. I have tried debunking every instance with the intent of convincing myself that it couldn't be real. There were other odd sightings that couldn't be explained. I'd go and take a shower and come out to my toys lying everywhere from being thrown around. Glassware kept falling and breaking from stable positions on counters, the kitchen island, and shelves. The man was spotted several more times by all of us, including my stepsisters, who ended up leaving with bruises on their arms, backs, and legs. At first, my mother thought it was my stepfather doing it, but that wasn't the case, partially because he wasn't in town at the time, and also because he would never hurt his daughters in any way. The little girl was only spotted 2 times after this, but only by my stepsister, who continued to be scratched and bruised up until we moved out of the house. Up until recently, I have never seen that same man or girl again, but have seen other abnormalities, shadows, and noises and voices. These instances have been confirmed by many people, friends and family. The visual apparitions still continue, but not nearly as frequent since moving to our new location. But I still wake to see people. A few months ago, I woke up at around 3 a.m. to the sound of crying. I thought it was my wife, since I fell asleep on the couch. The crying was coming from my home office, but there were no lights on inside. I opened the door and the crying stopped, turned to sniveling, but this time it was coming from outside of the office. I turned around and there was a shadow figure in the walk-in closet right outside of my office. The shadow figure just stood there watching me. I stood there staring at the shadow and it back at me. It backed up slowly towards the back of the closet and, just as fast as it appeared, it vanished. I have seen that figure in roughly 5 other locations in my house, including the spare bedroom, the master bathroom, and in the living room, when I left the master bedroom to go to the kitchen. Friends and family who stay at my apartment also encounter this shadow/silhouette, and have actually woken me up to tell me they thought someone was in the house on several occasions. The most recent sighting of the silhouette was by one of my best friends who came to visit, and he doesn't believe in the paranormal. He thought someone had broken in, because he clearly saw something run from the spare bedroom closet to the Jack and Jill bathroom and heard the door shut.
You've been listening to Dead Air. Like and subscribe for more. Good night.